Hey everyone, it's Christine Gritman here with Social, which I do every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, which hopefully you know by now. And every week I have a different guest talking about some area of social media, digital marketing, or, as has become sort of an accidental theme lately, other things that you can tie in and how to tie in other forms of marketing with your social media. So today I have the fabulous Gina Daschbach of Perooz magazines. And I know that when I first found out that you were going into magazines, Gina, I was like, magazines. Okay, magazines. Yeah, that's a thing. Now you have been, I'm going to put my arm around you, you know, pulling Greg Brady here. Also, we're cozied up here in my attic. Now you have been a marketer for a long time. So you have done all the things. Basically.
All the things.
So why did you decide that magazines were the thing you wanted to pursue?
Right. So I had worked for corporate for many years in technology and automotive and did all the things, whether it was trade shows, website development, emails, all of that. However, when I left my job to raise my family, social media was really more for personal use.
Yeah, the marketers hadn't really gotten
right.
We hadn't messed it up.
Right,
yet.
we didn't mess it up. We were putting resumes on LinkedIn, and that was about it. I remember somebody coming into my office and saying, "We got to be on Facebook," and I was like, "Oh my God, you got to get out of my office! Like we're building a 100,000 square foot trade show booth. Like we don't have time for that." And then I left and had babies. Yep. And it was about 8 years that passed. And then I was like, no, I'm going to be a marketing consultant. And the world had gone on without me.
It all changed.
And I tried to catch up, and I did some investing in some education.
And like, you know how to do social media. You do social media. She's also Gina Daschbach marketing. So like, you know it, but.
Right. So, it just didn't feel like me. And so I was trying so hard because that's what marketing was. Like when I left my position, marketing was traditional marketing and digital marketing. And digital marketing wasn't much more than buying banners and skyscraper ads, right? They hadn't figured it out yet.
Or pop-ups.
Or pop-ups.
Everyone loves pop-ups.
So it wasn't that interesting to me. And so that wasn't where my passion was. So I kept sort of, I did all of that purposeful work to figure out, my sixth grade daughter is calling me. Do you think that's a bad thing?
I don't know. You can get it.
That's all right. We'll let her leave me a message and see what happens.
Working moms.
So that's how it happens. So I went back to that thing that I was just so passionate about. And through the years, I had gotten really good at taking these complex stories that were words and pictures in a very visual storytelling format. And as I watched this storytelling movement happen through digital and on stages and through people writing books, it's like, why is nobody doing magazines? Because to me, that was the most natural and for me, the most enjoyable visual storytelling format. And so I thought, how can I make this not a design service, because I didn't want to be a designer. I wanted to
You're not just doing layouts. You're doing you're using your expertise to actually compose a cohesive.
So I was like, how do I take my 30 years crazy of, marketing, of, managing these big marketing teams and telling these big stories, getting that information, and how do I turn that into a product? And so I started in October of 2017. And it's really turning into something. I'm super excited about it.
So to be clear, when we talk about magazines, we're not talking about like literally a monthly or weekly or anything like that magazine that people can go and buy on the newsstand. Now, let's talk about these. And actually, let's take a look. We already have some questions. We have Ellen, hey, and we have Tim. Yes, so how did she get into magazines in the first place? We'll talk about that. Yes, so let's talk about that. So how did you discover the power of magazines?
I just loved them. I just always, so here's the thing. If I put my glasses on, I could see, that people are making comments. Hi, Tim. Hey, Greg. And so.
Greg's right underneath us.
So I always enjoyed reading magazines because I have a hard time tracking my eyes along long text. And so I have to really want to read a book to really put the time in to read it. But if I wanted to just glean some quick information, I always went to magazines.
It's easy to just flip through a magazine.
Magazines were the first influencer.
Yeah.
So if you were, so if you were like, let's go on a trip to Costa Rica, you'd go to Barnes and Noble and you would like maybe, you know, look at that, look through travel magazines. If you're like, I want to learn how to eat green, maybe you would buy a book, but kind of in the day, you went and you grabbed a magazine because it was like $5.95. You're like, I'll get this before I get the $30 book. But somehow when this phenomenon of writing your own books and self-publishing happened, I don't know why magazines didn't come along for the ride. I think because people look at that traditional, and this is what you were saying, is sort of the traditional model of publishing and distributing a book. But again, or a magazine, I should say. Yeah. Same thing
as a recurring periodical.
Right. Right. And so, and guess what? That doesn't work anymore. That's why you're seeing all these big magazines fold or merge into each other. You know, they're not getting the newsstand. They're not getting the ad sales. Sometimes you pick up a magazine and it's really just too much. All like you know, you've come to expect ads in a magazine, but when it's all ads, you're like, where's the content? Where's the beef? And so I create these magazines as a way for companies to tell their story, give that value that digital marketing has taught us how to do. Give value, give content, and people will follow you, and then they will want more. And the people that want more will become your customers. And
it's the people to establish thought leadership and to brand yourself. Though, as Greg pointed out, magazines don't have a trackable funnel.
Well, so that is somewhat true in print for sure. There are some things you can do. You can create a landing page. That's true. And you can advertise, you know, you could lead people from the magazine to that landing page. That the only way they can get to that magazine, that landing page, the only way they would know about it is if it was in a specialized magazine.
Link. That's a good call.
So we do that. We do also deliver the magazines.
QR codes have come back, which is a big surprise.
Right. And this is where, you know, we talk about, you know, what's coming. People talk about artificial intelligence and they talk about augmented reality.
Yes.
Well, there's magazines already doing that. I haven't started doing it yet. I haven't had a client ready for that yet. But like, if you look at Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop magazine, any article that you read in her magazine leads you to the website.
Let's talk about how that augmented reality in print works.
So I don't have a lot of experience with it, but basically you're reading with your phone. You take your phone and you scan it over the page and the page pops up. The page that you were just looking at on the magazine in print pops up on your phone. Works great for shopping. So Porter magazine is one of the first magazines that did this and does it really well. So every single article that you read in Porter magazine, every piece of clothing that somebody's wearing, you could have on your phone in your shopping basket in seconds. And so, you know, like I said, I haven't worked for a client like that yet, but there's like amazing.
It's a shame that Lucky Magazine missed that boat. That would have been
totally missed it.
Mind blowing. Well,
that would have been perfect.
Domino. Second life. Ellen says lots of calls to action though. Gina often includes a quiz too. I'm her quiz methodologist. Yay, Ellen. Totally trackable. And that's very true.
And I was just so Ellen, and one of the things that we talked about that we were really going to focus on here was how digital and print can live together like cinnamon and sugar and salt and pepper. They really work together. And Ellen, I had reached out to develop a quiz for me to help people kind of take an inventory of what they have for content and see whether they're a good fit for a brand magazine. Yeah. And when I created my own magazine,
spoiler alert, the answer is yes.
Yes, exactly. When I created my own magazine, I reached out to Ellen and I said, can you do one of your fancy quizzes and we'll put it in the magazine? And she was like, I've never seen my quizzes in a magazine. I've only seen them online. And so we created, and I'll give you a little sneak peek here. Yay! So this is my magazine.
Incredibility.
So named for really helping to connect the idea of building your authority positioning and your credibility through
beautiful picture by local Chris XK.
Oh yeah. And so this is Ellen's quiz. I don't know how our lighting is here.
Oh yeah, it might be a little too bright.
Yeah,
Let's
it might
see
be
if we can
a little bright.
Shade it a little. No,
but we're gonna put.
Is that Ellen?
That is Ellen. So we were able to take her quiz, put it into a print format because who doesn't love taking a magazine quiz? Yeah. And then also we have it online, so people can go online and take and
I
share the
love
quiz
that.
online.
I want to take a look at that again, actually. If you could bring that magazine back up. We can't see a ton in terms of reading it, but I would love to learn a little bit more about what goes into a brand magazine.
Right.
And then we'll answer Tim's question about more the nitty gritty of the printing and all of
Right.
that.
So here's one of the things I love about magazines. I love that one of the first steps that we do in the magazine is we do a little brand assessment. We do an inventory. We look at what you have, what the feel, what the look is. I take people through this sort of a fun discovery process where I show them different sets of different magazines. They could be newsstand magazines. They could be independent magazines. And we just go through and we get that muscle reaction of what do you love? Because design is very subjective.
And it has to feel like you.
But it has to feel like you. But again, I'm not doing a design service. So we're going to go through, we're going to figure out what you respond to. We're going to identify those, your core values and those adjectives that really are you whimsical, fun, and spontaneous? Are you serious and authoritative and whatever? We'll figure that out. And then we deliver a couple of options for you that identify those things that match with what we found. And we might make a couple of switches, couple of swaps, and then we go. And
I have to say, this sounds like a lot of what most marketers would do at the beginning with their clients. It's really important to see what they're responding to, what's out there that resonates with them and maybe feels like their brand as well. So it seems like, oh, magazine's a totally different process, but really it's a natural outcropping of any sort of branding work. So then what kind of content do you fill it up with?
Then the next thing I do is I do a little, because of my marketing background, we do a little work on kind of seeing what Google is telling us that people are reading on your content. And then we suggest a table of... Well, so somebody I just did some work for, he's a real estate investor and he's really into his Google Analytics. And he's like, these are the top 7 articles that when people find me, all those how to flip a house in his case, how to flip a house, how to get financing. So the content
he's putting out there already digitally, we're able to pull that data, the analytics data from what's out there already digitally. To see what sort of content people want, what people want to.
And then we repurpose the content. So we take what was one of them was a 4,500 word podcast interview. That was really popular. And I distilled it down to about 800 words. I was
about to say, what if someone doesn't have a blog? What if someone hasn't been writing content already?
So if they're not writing content already, we can create that. I've tried to create a product that is a done for you, hands-off service. And we can do it pretty quickly. Sometimes in 60 days or less, we can create these magazines. If there's no content, it's a little harder. You might not be 100% ready for a magazine, or you might have to make that commitment to, yes, I want this and I want to tell my story. And then we create the content for you.
To your point, you can also repurpose. If someone has done a podcast interview, you can transcribe that and make it work as an article.
We've transcribed
public speaking.
Public speaking. I've taken people's signature. Their signature stage presentation, Facebook Lives I've transferred. I have a client who, when he got his magazine, he's like, this sounds just like me. I'm like,
that is the best.
And I'm like, because it is you. We just made it, we just put it into a different format.
So you can repurpose social media content into the print content. Do you do the other way around as well? Do you repurpose the print content that's been created and sort of cut it up into little teasers to promote it online?
Yeah, absolutely. So Greg had said, like, how do you track this? And what about digital? And there are still people going, wow, why would I spend money on paper when I can do everything for free online? So we do deliver
free. Everything online is free.
It's all free. So we have a really robust platform that we use. It's not proprietary. It's called Issuu, ISSUU. You've probably flipped through a magazine there. So I have a subscription.
It's a great digital reader.
And it's a great digital reader. It makes that nice little flippy noise that people really like.
So it doesn't feel like a website. It feels like you're reading a magazine online. And also all the link outs are in there. So there's your, directing people to those certain things. There's all the analytics behind it. You could see how long somebody read it online, whether they shared it, whether they clicked on something, whether they saw it on a mobile app, or whether they saw it on the computer. So that's pretty cool. And then it has all sorts of tools where you can break apart the magazine, so you can share an individual article. That is great.
Actually, what you can do is you can open the article to page 32 because that's your client, right? So your client is telling the story on page 32. You can save it so that it opens on page 32. You can share that to social media and you could say, check out this feature on Christine Gritman on page 32 of our magazine. Christine Gritman sees it. She's like, I'm going to share this too.
Course.
So she shares it. And when your readers, they might start out at page 32, but then they can flip forward and backwards and get through the whole book. So that's pretty cool.
That's fantastic.
There's also some capabilities of creating little GIF videos of flipping through the magazine. So those are things you can share on social media. And you can use those to drive people to a lead magnet to get the full magazine in print.
Yes.
So here again, you know, you're tying in the digital.
So let's talk about the print. How do people get their hands on the actual print? One of the things that you've mentioned, that I mentioned, I think in my tweet advertising this, it is that you basically, it improves your open rate. If you send out an email, you know, maybe people will open the email. And a decent open rate is like 20-something% on an email, right? And if you get, if you send people to your web, or people get to your website, maybe they'll actually read things when they're there, maybe they won't. But to your point, someone receives something physical.
Yeah, it's huge. I'll tell you, postcards are 100% open rate. And I think that we do a pretty good job with the magazines. When I send my magazines, they come in a purple envelope with a gold seal and they're personalized.
That's very cool.
And I'm pretty certain they're breaking through and people are reading them. But everybody sort of has a different distribution method. So I brought a couple of samples here, if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
So Tammy Stackelhaus is amazing. So I want to be clear what I do and who really benefits from having a magazine. So one of the answers is anyone and everyone, but what I am doing is I'm helping mission-driven businesses get their message out in a really memorable way that leaves a lasting impression. And so this mission-driven business, Tammy Stackelhaus, is a fibromyalgia health coach, and she distributes her magazines through healthcare partnerships that she has with chiropractors, podiatrists, nutritionists.
Because who doesn't flip through a magazine when they're sitting in the waiting room?
Yeah. So she puts this in their doctor's offices. It talks about how you would work with what fibromyalgia health coaching is, you know, some tips on. So this one has live your best life with fibromyalgia, what doctors won't tell you about preventative care, and fibromyalgia health coaching explained. Also,
and a free book offer.
So she could put her books in the doctor's offices, but she sort of feels like it's kind of a big deal to ask somebody to read a 200-page book that they didn't ask for. But there's a pretty good chance that they're going to flip through a magazine and you know, see if that
that's the beginning of her funnel.
That's the beginning of her funnel.
Her audience has been targeted because they're actually in a physical space for a reason. It's already a like audience that has been chosen. And that's the beginning of her funnel. And she can figure out if she gets referrals from that. And then she knows the value of each place.
She also uses these at health walks.
Oh, Greg wants them closer to the camera.
Ooh,
for
but I can't
exposure and focus. Yeah, it is. It is tricky.
Oh, there we go. Maybe there.
They're more important.
She also has used these at a fibromyalgia health walks.
Yes.
Here's one of the things that we learned. So you have to be very clear at what you want. So one of the lessons that she learned is you can't just send these to an event planner and say, hey, can you put these out? Yeah. Because no one will take them. So you
they'll take them and throw them out, which sucks because you spent money on it.
But I think if you give a very specific script, and you know what? There may be people that throw them out. And so you have to kind of know that, you know, what are you paying for a lead that's going to come through and that's going to work? So, you know, you have to sort of deal with that, but know if you're giving them out to an audience, that's the right audience. So at a fibromyalgia health walk, most pretty targeted, right? But you have to sort of write the script for the event planner and say, when somebody checks in, check in their name, give them their badge, give them the magazine, and put it in their hands. But to put out a stack of magazines, sometimes
that's not gonna...
because they have a perceived value to them, and these are pretty nice. They're done on really nice paper.
They really are. They don't feel like a magazine you get at the store. Yeah. They feel thicker.
And so a lot of times people might not take them because they might be like, do I have to pay for that? Yeah. Right. So, so you have to be really, really clear on that. Now, Tammy is going to try a second a second push with these. She has quite a mailing list that she's developed through the years.
Oh, that's great.
And so she's like, I'm going to do a mailing to the 4,000 people on my list to say, hey, you've been on the list. I got this thing. Are you interested? I would need an address.
Yes.
Now, we know that it's pretty valuable for somebody to give you an email address, but to have their, to be like, yeah, here's my mailing address. Somebody has to be really interested in your product. Now she has to make a decision whether she wants to mail these out at no charge to them, or maybe charge, free with, $6.95 shipping and handling. And maybe, that qualifies them even further. Now they've given you their email, their mailing address, and $6.95. That's probably a pretty good lead.
Yeah.
So, that's one way.
So her top of funnel is very clear how she targets her audience. Do you have another example of how someone else might target a very different kind of audience?
Right. So this is Majid. I can't remember where I'm supposed to go. Here.
I'll be Vanna.
Because I'm to the side. Yeah. So Majid helps people with their speeches. He helps people win stages and learn how to make money speaking. So he's using, he's great. Absolutely. These are for you. So he helps actually Majid and another friend of mine, Shannon Hernandez, have an event coming up in New York City in June. It's June 8th and 9th, and that might be a really fun one to go to together. It's called The Art of Selling. And
you know what? Maybe.
It's a really fun thing. So he is using this to get people to come into his funnel, but he's also using it as more of a welcoming thing. So he has several books that he's written, and he sort of has this welcome to the family, be part of the community. So he's using his mostly for like community building, so people feel like they're really part of something. He highlights some of his VIPs in here, and then also highlights people who have gotten success going through his program.
Oh, that's great.
Mark Cordone is the happiness coach. He's amazing.
He looks pretty happy.
He is a happy guy. And then he also uses his magazine to share with event planners.
That is great.
Hey, if you're looking for an expert speaker, I got the people.
Oh, that's great.
And so he has sort of two purposes.
Yeah, Tim was saying, are we going to have Gritman magazine handed out at Atomicon? I'm not quite there yet. I need to make a little more content first. One thing that I wanted to talk about that Tim asked kind of two related questions on, which were about the magazine printing process and how much it costs per magazine, because this is clearly, an undertaking.
Yeah, it is.
So let's talk about sort of how that goes.
It is. So the way that I do it, and there are some other companies that do brand magazines. Not a lot,
Not a lot. It's not a very crowded space.
A lot of the ones that are doing it may be an ad agency. And so this is part of what they do as an ad agency, or people that really are doing really niche markets. I've seen some real estate magazines. I've seen other ones where you get to pick through a library of articles and, do a custom cover and maybe one or two custom articles, and then you pick from a library. But I'm like, the idea is telling your story your way with your stuff, like Oprah, right? It's like your favorite people and your favorite things and your inspiration. And that's what I love about doing them.
You're not curating so much as creating.
Right. I mean, it is curating, but curating from your own stuff, right? So it's like you're curating your own stuff, which many times people have forgotten about. I find that people today are like these great content creators, but there's this panic to break through the noise with creating more content. So they just keep writing more content, and like really those pearls and gems are like you already wrote them.
And you highlight that right there in the magazine. So how does it go in terms of the printing process?
Right. So this is this done for you service. So we do the printing, we curate photos from ones Yep. So I manage all of that so that, right now it's me. And we have a couple different creative resources that we work with. Yep. And so we edit and we professionally proofread and we put together this package, and it comes with 100 free copies.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I know people, I hope you're not one, I don't think you would be one, that had beautiful wedding pictures taken.
Yes.
And they never do the album.
Yeah, we did the album, but the fact is, I know what you mean. And there's so many that I'm like, I've been meaning to print out and frame somewhere for 10 years.
So we start out and we're like, no, you get 100.
I love that.
You get 100 free magazines, and
We did all this work.
And then we could talk about, and before we give you the 100 free magazines, we also say, like, what do you got coming up? Let's get that distribution.
What's the minimum, or is there a minimum order?
There's no minimum order because they're going to get 100. And this is printing on demand. And so again, it's
so they're really paying for the work.
You're paying
more
for
than
the work.
Printing.
Yeah. You know, I had a call with somebody and she said, well, that's $70 a magazine. So, and I was like, oh my gosh, no, it's not. Who would pay that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But so if you take that $100 and you can do the math. If you take what she's saying, $70 a magazine for 100 magazines, I don't think that's a very good deal.
Yeah.
But you have to remember we have that unlimited tool, which is the digital tool and the digital tool. So you've got unlimited digital copies and all the different ways that you're going to use that. Issue also has a pretty robust SEO section.
Oh, that's great.
That they so it's going to add to your thing of how people find you. In addition to that, they are connected. This is a new thing with Apple News.
Oh, that is great.
So if you take the time, it's a little extra work on the back end. So it's like an extra service that I provide. But then you could break up those articles even further and feed them into Apple News. People read your article about, 5 things that you need to know about, your social media plan for this year. People read it, and then it links them back to your magazine.
Awesome.
So that's pretty cool.
That is awesome.
So to get to the answer of how I do this, I've broken down 3 popular sizes. So we have a 12-page magazine, a 28-page magazine, and a 52-page magazine.
And clearly you can customize because that speaker's magazine was shorter than that because he can get done what he needs to get done.
Right. Although I want to see it bigger. So to be honest with you, when I did...
Well, now that he's seen the return on investment.
Right. Exactly.
Next time.
So this was an 8-pager. I decided I didn't want to offer an 8-pager. So I made it a 12-pager because it feels like a little bit more for me.
Yeah, it's not a pamphlet.
However, I've got 2 magazines that I did that were 80 pages.
80
and
pages.
So like, this is, it has heft.
Yeah.
So this one
is a great one.
I don't know why I can't seem to
it.
get the right direction.
I'm Dana.
I go the wrong way.
Incubated with author coach. What's your sister's name?
Angela Loria. So she has the author incubator. So she featured 12 of her authors and their stories of transformation, how they went from, I want to write a book to I'm a best-selling author.
And that's a great way for her to deliver value. She has delivered value to her clients through the magazine.
Right. So this is basically a catalog of, of what she has, what she has done. This one's a little bit older, but so this one's 80 pages. I just finished another one that's 80 pages. So while I'm trying to take some of the guesswork and some of the decisions out of it by kind of being like, this is how, and we also know how it breaks down.
Yeah.
So like a 28-page magazine is going to be, your letter from the editor, your table of contents, your masthead. It's going to be
structure to it.
3 articles. Is going to be 3 or 4 client stories because that's really important. Optional quizzes, things like that.
Awesome. All right. So we're coming up on 12:30, but I want to get through my 5 questions. I've started this 5 questions thing.
All right.
Where holdover from the old Daily Show, the original Daily Show.
All right.
Craig Kilborn. 5 questions.
Okay.
Very random. Just answer top of your head. Okay. 1. Mailbox or inbox?
Mailbox.
Time or Vogue?
Oh, it's Time.
Sassy or YM?
I think it's more, but sassy.
Envelope or package?
It's envelope.
Writing or speaking?
Oh, that's a hard one for me.
Yeah.
I think it's speaking.
Yeah. Speaking's good. Yeah. All right. Well, awesome. So this was Gina Daschbach. Thank you so much from Perooz magazine. Now, why did you choose to spell Perooz P-E-R-O-O-Z?
Oh, because P-E-R-U-S-E was not available. And so I love the phonetic spelling. I love the 2 O's. And I was trying to figure out, like, what do people do with a magazine and flip through? It's like, flip through a magazine? I don't know. So we went with Perooz. I'm going to give you a link to put in there.
Fantastic.
So that if anybody wants to get a free magazine, they can get it. They can.
I'm going to put that in right now.
Yes.
Do you have it?
Yeah. So it's, hold on. So it's peroozme.com. /free-magazine. If you go there, And if you go there today and fill it out, I will mail you in a purple envelope right to your Real Deal inbox.
And you could do your Blue's Clues dance.
Yes. And then I could also, if you're interested in any of the other magazines, I can also send those to you. Send me a little note and say, I want expert speaker, or I want the fibromyalgia health coach one. So those are the two that I have available.
Love it.
Yeah.
And it works. So I typed
she
link
tested my
link. Well, that is awesome. Yeah, I'm going to have to click on that and get my free magazine.
Yeah. Any questions? Just pop them in the chat.
We got a couple minutes for questions. I also want to take a second to promote a couple things that I got going on. So some of you know that Doreen, Maureen Van Dam, and I have been working on this how-to social content strategy thing. We had a 3-day challenge, and now we are moving on to webinars to deliver more value. We're delivering 2 free content strategy webinars. They're the same webinar, basically, just at times that might be convenient for different people. Next Tuesday, the 12th at 7 p.m. or next Friday, the 15th at 1 p.m. And so I'm going to include the links for those. You can sign up for that.
I'm doing it.
And then we have a paid masterclass that goes much more in depth on Sunday evening, February 24th at 7 p.m. Because Sunday night, you know, if you're busy all week and, you know, all weekend you're kind of having fun, Sunday night, there's a lot of time.
That's great times.
People who meal prep, people who batch their content, you know, scheduling. Sunday night tends to be a good time to kind of take that moment to set up for your week. So Sunday night, February 24th at 7 p.m., we'll have, and when I say paid webinar, it's really not that much. It's like $30. Like and it'll really teach you how to do your whole content strategy for the year. Honestly, like you could watch this webinar and be like, all right, I got my plan for all of 2019.
I'm in.
Yes, and speaking of plans for 2019, I'm, of course, going to just put in a little spot about Social Media Marketing World. Social Media Marketing World in San Diego in March. I can't believe you haven't come to it yet. You have to go one of these years.
Maybe this year. Maybe this year.
Well, you know, if you go, use my affiliate link that I just put in.
All right, you got it.
And then finally, the last thing I'm going to pimp out at you right now is the fact that I do this show every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern time. And it is really fun, and I have different guests. And my most watched episode ever, was NIAC's own lovely Katie Marchese, who is the business brains behind Mario the Magician, who is her spectacularly talented husband. And so Katie is going to teach us something that so many people wonder how to do, which is how do you get people to show up to your actual events? How do you do that?
Magic helps.
Magic helps. So that is next week's show. And hopefully it will be as popular as last year's was. All right. So if anyone has any other questions for Gina before she calls her daughter back. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Gina. And I will repost that free magazine link because I think that is a very important thing and a wonderful value add here. And I can't find it, but I'll repost it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, it was so fun to finally do this with you.
Yay! All right. Thanks, everyone. Christine Griffin here. See you next week. Bye.